Welcome back. This is By the Book, and we're your married relationship coaches. I'm Sam.
I'm Sil.
And today we're talking about Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 9. Gonna go ahead with the drama couple and talk about Dominique and Mack. We finally saw it all unravel. Last week, when they left off, Pastor Cal had asked very pointedly what Dominique meant by saying she was over it. She kind of teetered around spitting out the answer. She didn't feel comfortable, I guess, saying she wanted a divorce. But finally, he beat it out of her. And she said she would like a divorce at this point. So Pastor Cal kind of came back at her, asking her if maybe 25 was too young for her to, I don't know, get married or try this process, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Which she said she didn't really think so. So that's one of the things that my husband and I talked about, and want to know you guys' opinion too. Personally, I feel like 25 is very young to make a desperate move, and I think it's a desperate move to be on Married at First Sight in the first place. To me, it seems like something that I don't know, like you wouldn't do unless it was like a last resort.
Yeah.
And 25 seems very early to be making last resort type decisions on relationships.
Yeah.
So just from the beginning, definitely thought 25, wow, this is crazy. Maybe that's why her mom was the one who signed her up in the first place. However, I don't know if I think she necessarily treated this process like she was too young to be in it. And I know a lot of you all will disagree and say, she was showing her youth by being impatient with him or, not giving him enough chances or complaining about him a lot. And I just don't know. I still sit on they're not compatible.
Okay.
And I think the incompatibility, they were things that were really pushing her buttons. And that's why she ultimately spoke out about those things. I think it was hard for her to just sit on it because it was super annoying. So, I want to kind of let my husband express whether or not he thinks she was behaving young. We both agree that she is young. But what do you think it was her youth and immaturity that broke this marriage? Or do you think it was just the level of incompatibility?
Okay. 25 is young,
right?
To try to get married. People do get married before then and have long-lasting relationships. But 25 again for this particular process, I would never advise it. And do I think she particularly was too young? Yes, I do. I don't think she had the kind of like where Pastor Cal was trying to allude when he was saying in a marriage you're going to have to fight for it. Now I don't necessarily agree for that terminology. I think you have to work at it. I like that terminology better. I think you have to make a stand to stand in your marriage, or make a proclamation, make a determination. Yeah, you're going to have to do some of those type of things to stand in your marriage and to work at it. And so 25, I don't think many 25-year-olds, including her, they're not going to have that type of wherewithal to stick it out. And I think she gave up prematurely. Now, are there some incompatibility with them? Incompatibilities? Yes, of course. Yes. There's incompatibilities with people who are compatible. But still, are you willing to work at this thing where you do not measure up, where you do not agree? Can we talk about things to the point to where we can get on the same page with one another? Part of a marriage is I'm not giving up on the marriage, and I'm not giving up on you. And so you made a commitment to be in this process. at the very least, I would expect for anybody who signed up for this process, even though it is completely ridiculous, but I would expect anyone who signs up for it, at the very least, to be committed to the commitment. You signed up for at least 8 weeks. You only 2 weeks into it. No, I think 25 is saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't know if I can blame her age. And that, I want to go back to, like, say, Alyssa. I don't know how old she was, but I'm certain she was older than Dominique is. And I feel like she treated that process a whole lot more juvenilely than Dominique did. So I don't know if it's an age thing or what. But, again, this is another point. My husband and I go back and forth about all the couples, all the time, about this very issue, which is how much do you owe this person who you don't know, you don't necessarily like, you don't love, and you're running into an issue of incompatibility. When I think about incompatibility, I don't think about it in terms of like little incompatibilities. I think of those as being like conflicts. Those are like maybe personality clashes. It's something about you that gets on my nerves, whatever. When I think about the word incompatible, I think of it being like a global, if you and I are incompatible, we're not staying together. We're incompatible. Not we have little incompatibilities. That's not how that works for me. So, I mean, maybe that's just a matter of semantics. I don't really know. But I look at them as literally being incompatible. Mainly, and I think it's easy to villainize her because she doesn't like him. So when you're the non-liker, it makes you seem like you're more villainous because it's like, well, he's not complaining about you. And it's like, yeah, well, maybe I'm not annoying to him like that. Maybe. Or maybe he's just not a complainer. Who knows? But we've talked about this since the beginning. He is annoying. And he's not going to be annoying to everybody. There's always somebody for everybody. But for her, for the type of person that she is and the type of person who she wanted, he is very annoying. He's goofy. He jokes so much. He doesn't seem stable. I mean, he's living in a friend's basement. She brought up very good points about, him not wanting to commit to something so much as a lease, but he was ready to commit to a marriage. It seems very bizarre. So to add that on top of his personality flaws, as she would call them, him being like, I guess, non-adventurous, not wanting to do anything, and she's an adventurous person, she feels like this is incompatible. And I guess my question is just, to myself, to everybody else, does she owe him or this process? Just think about this. If we were dating someone, they've been together for no more than 2 weeks. At the time that she walked away from this. I think it was a couple days before. If you're dating, and truly I see Married at First Sight as a glorified dating process, which time, if you decide that you like this person at the end, you can stay married to them. But to me, that's when the marriage really begins, is if you say yes at decision day.
I get that.
But if you're dating someone and 10, 12 days into the process, you're like, we're incompatible. Do you continue to drag yourself through that relationship for no good reason? You don't. You walk away. We all do that. And I think maybe if you want to blame anything on her age, maybe it being 25, you have a stronger sense of that walk away. Like, no, I'm not putting myself through another day, let alone a full 8 weeks of this. I want out. This person is not compatible with me. He's not going to be able to change. I don't even want him to change, okay? Be who you are. Just, you can't be with me. Like, that's what I think she's dealing with. I'm just not going to be around for it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think a lot of people, not just her, a lot of people give up on their relationships very fast. And I think it was 12 days, not even 2 weeks. You're just 12 days into this thing. And again, you made a commitment. So why not just be committed to the commitment for 8 weeks? It's not it's not going to be the end of the world, but at least at the end of the 8 weeks, you can say, I fulfilled that part of the commitment. It's almost like if you got a kid that wants to go play basketball, but then they get out on the court after you sign them up and they say, you know what? I don't want to play. No, you made a commitment. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you will play this whole season, or maybe you'll play half the season. I don't know. Whatever that commitment level is that you made with your child, I think it needs to be upheld. I think people bailing out and quitting prematurely, I think it's a product of the society right about now, to where we just like, I don't want to do this, and you take your ball home with you at any given point. And especially if you're talking about marriage, and I understand that this is kind of like a glorified dating type thing, like you just said, and the real marriage probably doesn't start until after the decision day. I understand that as well. But if you're signing up for something like this and you don't know who's at the end of the aisle for you, I think at the very least you owe it to that process and to yourself, since you decided to do it, to be committed to the commitment. And I think that is a level of maturity that a person has to have. And at 25, more than likely, you're not going to have it. Alyssa, I don't know how old that child was, but she don't need to be with anybody signing up for any type of show or whatever the case may be. And yeah, Dominique did present better than Alyssa. I will give her that. But however, the result is still the same. Second verse, same as the first. It's the same way.
I mean,
you didn't want to move in. It's all the same thing. Why can't you just, if you signed up for this thing, why can't you just be committed to this commitment that you made and put your best foot forward, put your big girl panties on, put your big boy drawers on, and just walk through this process that you signed up for as an adult?
Because my question is, if you know that you know this is not going to work, then what are you doing for the next 6 weeks of the process? Like when you're playing cards, we play cards sometimes. You play spades. Once you get set, y'all just throw the book. You know what I mean? Like, you don't keep playing it out just to be playing it out. Oh, we don't play the rest of this hand for fun. No, everybody throws the card. You be like, okay. We're set.
Okay, the beautiful thing about spades, and for y'all who know this, it's more than just one hand. I mean, you get one hand, it's trash. But you know what? Let me stay in this game long enough with my partner, deal those cards again. We may be running to Boston. And so I think having that again, that thing, we in this thing.
No, we made this. But she don't see him as a partner. He's the hand. You know what I'm saying? He's the hand. He's like, and she's like, I threw him in. No. Give me a whole new hand. No. Let me try again with something fresh, because that's the way I see it. I mean, I do take your point. I get it. And I'm one of those people who's pretty committed to whatever it is that I commit to. So I do understand that mentality. But I also understand know when to fold them type mentality. Like, if this is over and I know that I'm checked out, why am I putting us through this?
Well,
because it's not. I'm going to say no at decision day. This is basically what she's saying. I'm going to say no at decision day. Why do I need to drag this out any further?
Well, see, I think she not only did that. I don't know what you want to call it. Can't call it really. You don't want to call it a marriage, but I'm calling it a marriage.
Yeah,
she did the marriage a disservice by giving up so fast, because you don't know what you don't know, and she continues because she don't know the future, and she continues not to be able to say, I may have jumped the gun a little bit on this. She doesn't put that spotlight. Like, she able to critique Mac, she doesn't put that spotlight on herself. And so even when the after party, do you think there's something else you could have said or done? Is there something else you could have said or done to keep yourself in this process longer? Oh, no, absolutely not. So even in hindsight, in retrospect, she will not turn that light on herself and be like, I was a little too hasty or whatever. I 12 days in, I could have went the rest of the way.
I think we could probably spend an unreasonable amount of time, going back and forth and kind of breaking down whether or not she was hasty. I at least believe from her position, she feels like she sucked it up to whatever extent. And I mean, we all watched. We saw the complaint. We saw the way they edited it to show, how much she pointed out that he was frustrating her. But she at least makes it seem from her position that he was a continual complainer about every single thing that they did.
Yeah.
And she was miserable because of it. And I do understand why that would make one miserable.
Yeah.
And we talked about this too. I'm like, if you were the type of person who complained all the time, everything we did, or if I gave myself as an example, if we were dating, every time he took me to a restaurant, I was like, I don't like the waitress and I don't like the food and I'm sending this back. And did you see how she was walking and she's chewing bubble gum? Like if I had to complain all through and then I turned around and said, well, I went to this restaurant, because I like you. So, take that as a positive. You would be annoyed. Yeah. And he would eventually be like, you know what? Let's not go to a restaurant anymore. Let's order some food here. Let's do this. Or if we had freshly been dating and that was happening 2, 3, 4, 5 days in, you would be like, I'm going to just ghost this woman. I don't want to see her anymore because it's miserable. And I think that's what she was up against. She was like, under any other set of circumstances, I would never see this man again. But somehow y'all want me, or I'm supposed to, because I'm part of this process, move in with him and somehow develop a stronger connection. Not to mention that he's super corny, always joking, doesn't know when to stop, which is another thing that rubs her the wrong way. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to go full in on taking up for Dominique. I don't know if she should have been on the show. And if you couldn't have been woman enough to sign yourself up for the show, you probably shouldn't have been on it. But that's a whole different thing. I just think it's fair to say that they were incompatible.
I would say that too. But
if she wanted to decide that early, I do understand.
But I also, you said something about that she was having a hard time. She was miserable because he was complaining and he was, what did you say, corny? Because he was joking. He was joking.
I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Like, he was.
But the real thing is no. She was still willing to hang in there. What happened is when he took a stand and he was just like, I'm tired of you complaining about me. It was when the rug came from underneath her. She was coping and being snippy about the complaining he was doing and the jokes. She was being snippy about all of that. But until he was just like, look, I gotta be me, and you're making me feel horrible about me, And so until that kind of like happened, no, she was willing.
Well, let me respond to that because I have a couple of things to say about that. For one, I don't know if I think that was exactly when. I honestly think that when she went to the apartment or, the basement he was staying in, that was her last straw. Not whether or not he was standing up for himself. Number two, the way that their conflict went in the car where he brought up the dogs that she didn't think was a big deal, that he then made into a big deal. I think that soured her as well because then she felt like that was him being petty. I won't judge whether or not, it was petty. You can't say how he feels about his dogs. I'm sure he loves them. So that was something he was silent on though. So for her, it seemed like sour grapes. Like I'm saying things about you and now you're trying to like be petty and come up with something that you haven't been bothered with for the last 5 months. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. You want these dogs here, and they don't really have a place to be. So I understand why that was a conflict, because they're at an impasse right there. He feels how he feels, she feels how she feels about that. So I think that's kind of more where it went left. And if anything, for him standing up for himself, so to speak, I think that might make a person realize, you know what? You're absolutely right. You would have to change a lot of things about yourself in order for me to like you. And you shouldn't have to do that. You have been you for your 34 years, I think he is. You've been you for this amount of time. And heaven forbid I step in and try to like revamp who you are. Just do it over there. And that's like, it was like, that's it. Now I understand. I am maybe pushing you too hard. I am asking too much. I want you to change what you like and what you don't like. I want you to stop joking. And you corny to me. You got to change that whole thing and go to like some kind of suave classes or something. Like, it's too much. It's an overhaul. I'm not even going to ask you to do that much. We just are incompatible.
Well, first, she never called him corny.
But I am corny.
But I want to say, couples need to be very careful in how they complain. And especially if you're complaining with any type of frequency, you just continuing to do it. And I noticed with Dominique, she was very ready to give out those critiques. But I didn't see her willing to, again, turn a spotlight on herself, critique herself, nor was she willing to receive one. As a matter of fact, she was ready to critique Pastor Cal when he got to the apartment. Oh, yeah, I got you. You ready for this whooping, Pastor Cal? He's like, no, you need to be ready for this whooping. Now sit down. Now let's talk about this thing. And so, again, having that ability to be self-aware and to be open to changing yourself, because Dominique, at 25, yeah, you got some stuff you need to work on too, not just McKinley.
So that's the breakdown of Dominique and Mackinley. And I don't want to like belabor it, because like I said, we can go over and over and over the same thing. I really want to hear what you guys think about it. I kind of know most of you guys who have commented kind of lean against Dominique. And I get it. I do. But, I want to give her a fair shake. And I want to say, if you see that something is incompatible straight away, I think it's okay to call that. I don't want to see multiple couples start doing that just like as the default on Married at First Sight. I think that the show will fail if it starts to do that with frequency. Yeah. But, in extreme sets of circumstances, or, what a person would judge as an extreme set of circumstances, hey, don't make it so miserable for the next 6 weeks. I get that. I kind of do.
Yeah. Oh, well, I beg to differ on that one. We're going to, we can't agree all the time.
And we don't. So, anyway, guys, drop those comments below. Let us know your thoughts. And one more thing.
Oh, my goodness. What?
How did she make her way back on the show? How did she go make her way back on the show to kiss Clint? That's all I want to know. Answer that. So, again, drop those comments, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.